Wonderful greetings on a cold Wednesday morning to the Catholic Educational Association of the Philippines, its member schools, colleges, and universities, administrators, faculty, personnel, alumni, parents, and students are tuning in to listen to sharing insights and experiences from champions of poverty reduction. My name is Father Thadeo Enrique N. Balongag, fondly called Father Iking, Chair of the Programs Committee. I am your moderator, and I am coming to you live from the city of gentle people, Dumaguete. It's raining here. I hope the sun is out in your place, and I hope the weather is good. Welcome to day 3 of the third session of our 2021 CEAP JEEPGY National Conference. Yesterday, our session focused on another pillar of transformative education, justice and peace. And we had a very inspiring session on nonviolence for the next generation. Today, we will zoom in our focus on poverty reduction, particularly the journey and mission of 2 influential figures in Catholic education this part of the country. To formally start our session, let us seek God's blessing upon our undertaking, aspiration, and intention. Let us pray. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly Father, we come before you conscious of your immense goodness and boundless love. We offer to you our world that is full of contradictions and inadequacies, and pray that by your grace we may become authentic instruments through whom your blessings flow endlessly. Direct us, dear Father, to truly work for the rebuilding of our world, where poverty is reduced, where generosity is modeled, and where empowering lives becomes the standard. Open our hearts to provide space for the concerns of the last, the least, and the lost, that we may seek by our ministry and mission the establishment of the kingdom here on earth, to glorify and honor you, and to truly work to contribute for the uplift of lives and of humanity. All this we pray in Jesus through Mary. Amen.
Amen.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, Brother Kenneth. Hello, Sister Carmeli. I hope this session finds you today well and good. While we are still reeling from the negativities of the pandemic and the new strain that seems to have reached our shores now, let us continue believing that God's power and mercy are far stronger than the new strain. Let us continue praying for everyone, and let us continue hoping that this will soon come to an end. We are live both on the CEAP Facebook page and the CEAP channel on YouTube, and we will continue to deliver our webinars on these 2 platforms. If you have not done it yet, let me ask you to like this webinar by pressing the thumbs up button below and subscribe to your YouTube CEAP channel now. Go ahead, press the red button so that you'll be informed of all the webinars that we will be having in the coming days, months, and years. So like, subscribe, and share. We have some reminders. First, as the talk is ongoing, we encourage you to post your questions or comments at the comments section on Facebook and YouTube. And we will raise these questions or read the comments during the Q&A portion. Second, certificates. We get a lot of queries about certificates. Please be informed that you will receive the certificate of attendance only upon completion of the evaluation form. The link has already been posted as part of the caption of this video, both on YouTube and Facebook. But please note that the link will only go live from 11:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. today. So if you click now, it is not going to open. We encourage you to answer the evaluation form first, and then you will receive your certificate of attendance in 3 to 5 days. Finally, please be reminded as well that this is a free webinar brought to you in partnership with the Private Education Assistance Committee, or PEAC. Again, we are giving this to you for free. But if you want to share your blessings, you may donate to our Kapatirang Kamagong Fund. It is our fund to help the poor and struggling CEAP mission schools. And we help because we believe no Catholic school should be left behind. Please share this webinar to your networks with the hashtags, hashtag CEAP Cares, hashtag I love Catholic Ed. In the CEAP document, Philippine Catholic School Standards, or PCSS, for basic education, we are reminded through Standard 4 that an excellent Catholic school is faithful to the Church preferential option for the poor and demonstrates its fidelity through actions that favor the deprived sector of society. Under this standard, we find 3 benchmarks that concretize a Catholic school's direction in addressing poverty reduction. Benchmark 4.1 says the school engages in sustainable programs that uplift the quality of life and respect the dignity of the poor, deprived, and marginalized sectors of society. Benchmark 4.2, the school allocates human and financial resources to make education equitably accessible to the poor. Benchmark 4.3, the school provides programs and activities that enable the poor to become active participants in their educative process. To share with us their journey in the mission of uplifting lives and empowering humanity, we have invited 2 resource persons for today's webinar. Our first resource person spent practically all her life in the education ministry through the Commission on Schools of the Augustinian Sisters of Our Lady of Consolation as chair of the Commission on Schools of the Congregation, as superintendent of Augustinian schools in the Philippines, as president of the University of Regina Carmeli in Bulacan, now La Consolacion University, Philippines, and as president of La Consolacion College, Bais. She is an accreditor of the Philippine Association of Colleges and Universities Commission on Accreditation, or PACUCOA, and also of the Philippine Association of Accredited Schools, Colleges, and Universities for Tertiary Education, or PACUCOA, or PAASCU rather, an initiator and program directress of Mother Rita Barcelo Outreach and Livelihood Corporation in Bulacan and in Negros. She also became chair of the CEAP Superintendent's Commission and sat as a member of the CEAP National Board, serving as the board's corporate treasurer. Interestingly, her master's thesis focused on empowering the poor, especially the women's sector, towards economic sustainability, the OSA incubator model. Friends, fellow educators, please extend a virtual applause to Sister Carmeli Marie Catan, OSA.
Thank you. Good morning, fellow educators. Thank you for the opportunity to share our attempts to concretize the congregation's trust, frontier spirit, last, the lost, the deathless. My personal conviction is through education, the poor can be liberated from poverty. Named after one of our foundresses, Maderita Barcelay Paches, OSA, on the occasion of the Golden Jubilee of the former Regina Carmeli College, now La Consolacion University, Philippines, the Maderita Outreach and Livelihood Corporation was launched as a legacy to the church and to the society as a whole. While I was in Bulacan for 21 years, we started the project at Pandi, Bulacan using community organizing as a process. We follow certain protocols as we enter the community. Our mission, total human development as the umbrella, that addresses the basic needs of the poor using the basic ecclesial community model as a structure. In running this project, we defined the strategic structures for program, operation, and implementation to minimize errors and waste of human resources and material resources. Approaches used. Based on the needs analysis, 5 component programs were identified, such as health, medical services using Florida Emergency Hospital, in partnership with the local government unit of Plaridel, with the mayor, who is himself a physician, serve as the Center for Health Services funded by the Japan International Cooperation Agency, JICA. After 12 years, the congregation was able to put up its own tertiary hospital, now known as La Consolacion University General Hospital in Plaridel, Bulacan. On livelihood development, under the project of Brother Robert McGovern, FMS, Regina Carmeli College as accredited school was one of those who were chosen to pilot the Business Resource Center in the Jangas. Under this project, out of the 24 municipalities of Bulacan, the Business Resource Center was able to serve 22 municipalities, funded by the USAID and Asia Foundation, targeting the small and struggling entrepreneurs in Bulacan, providing skills training on simplified bookkeeping, salesmanship, packaging, pricing, and so forth. On education, through this project, early childhood education programs were established covering 17 barangays funded by the Catholic Children's Fund and DSWD. This enabled us to send 2 of our faculty members to study in Canada through a scholarship grant given by the Association of Canadian Community Colleges, ACCC, to take up master's degree on early childhood education, recommended by the Association of Non-Traditional Education of the Philippines, ANTEP. On innovative approaches in creating opportunities to study, the Chamber of Commerce put up a one classroom at one of the coastal barangays in Bulacan High School for high school students, introduced by Dr. Catalino Rivera, the former executive director of CHED, and also established extension colleges linked with 3 parishes in Bulacan. This is to make education accessible to the majority. On institution building, providing community leadership training to prepare the community leaders become empowered leaders, facilitated by faculty members of the college as part of their service component of their performance evaluation. On community socialized housing project, this is ongoing, funded by the German doctors and the federal government of Germany. Maderita Homes, a primary vehicle for establishing the Church of the Poor. The Dumaguete projects, this is in Negros Oriental. These were the places where the beneficiaries came from. The scavengers, the blinds, and the fishermen. Father Eki was instrumental in bringing the project to Dumaguete City in Negros Oriental with the follow-up of the city mayor. The first batch of the houses in Dumaguete was blessed and turned over to the beneficiaries in the presence of the city mayor. Final instruction and signing of the contract and the memorandum of agreement was given in the presence of the city mayor. The places reached by this project are the following: Candelaria, Zambales, Malolos, Bulacan, Dumaguete City. Number of housing units built are 615 at the moment, and number of families served are 664. New vision and mission is specifically for the Maderita homes in Candaoay. This is in collaboration with the homeowners. The vision is a progressive and Christian-centered community. Mission, MRBOLC is committed to promote total human development under the guidance of Our Lady of Consolation and the spirituality of Maderita Barcelona Apaches OSA. The original intentionality, social laboratory sites for the actual application of learning, practicum, exposure, immersion activities of RCC students, personnel, and other community development observers and guests, teachers from our sister schools. Before introducing the project, we started with community organizing. Different palliative projects were offered: water and sanitation, mission, medical mission, community-based health center funded by JICA, early childhood development, and community leadership training was also introduced to the leaders to prepare them to become for the phase out of the project, to run their own community. Skills training for academic development and livelihood was offered to them. This is being done by the Business Resource Center. And they were able to put up tailoring shop, computer shop, sari-sari store. As part of mentoring the leaders, institutional building, our community worker and the social worker started to mentor them in preparation for their takeover. And on their livelihood project, they were given trickle-up capital to start their own project. Skills training on baking, sewing, garment making. The pig dispersal was introduced. This project to enhance the economic condition of the farmers. This project was introduced and funded by CEAP JEEPGY program. Coffee Central and Coffee Beans Production partnered with LCC Bais to help the rural folks in processing their coffee beans and to cut the presence of the middlemen. On bringing education to the doorstep of the poor, we piloted the Open High School program authored by Carol Porio of the former Fund for Assistance for Private Education. Beneficiaries were from coastal barangay, indigenous people, inmates of Bae City, upland farmers, and their children. During graduation of the inmates, the bishop of the diocese used to give them inspirational talk and also a token for the graduates. And this also gave the teachers the opportunity to distribute snacks to the inmates and the sisters to have an opportunity to make conversations with the warden. The Open High School program was also brought to the mountains of Bae City and serviced the indigenous people. This project became students' exposure, both for local and foreign students, including our own teachers. On curriculum innovation for agribusiness. This is the present innovation. This was authored by Dr. Jose Medina, funded by CHED, with the commitment to be replicated in 3 more schools in Negros. LCC Bais developed and piloted an innovative Bachelor of Science in Agribusiness degree to encourage the lifelong learners to enroll in the alternative mode degree in agribusiness. The Hope Cafe project, the goal, develop a learner-centered farm family learning school that promotes socio-ecological viable, integrated, climate resilient farming system. The objectives are develop participatory curriculum, development and teaching methodology, identify appropriate livelihood training and development, appropriate training materials, establish family-based learning farm school, innovative and sustainable family-based hilly land farming system, and establish mobile biophysical laboratory. If you're interested to replicate this project, you can contact Dr. Jose Medina at La Consolacion College, Bae City. Incidentally, I'd like to share with you that the commission, that the CEAP Superintendent's Commission spearheaded the writing of the series of transformative education textbooks from grade 7 to 10, authored by Dr. Belen de Jesus, the coordinator, Father Romeo Gonzalez, MS, Sister Lourdes Dolay, and myself. Let me now share with you the funding agencies. Philippine Business for Social Progress, the President's Management Services, Office of the President of the Philippines, USAID and Asia Foundation, Japan International Cooperation Agency, Catholic Children's Fund, German Doctors and Federal Government of Germany. Our partners and linkages, parents, alumni, benefactors, local government units, barangay officials, non-government agencies, international linkages on schools and universities, parishes, and Chamber of Commerce. Program impact in Maderita Homes, Candaway, a progressive and Christ-centered community. And some of the testimonies given, the joy of owning a home, experience a great change of life because of the spiritual and peaceful life, experience meaningful life, especially in their spiritual relationship with God and in social relationship with their neighbors. And they also felt comfortable compared with their previous residence where there are so many troubles and vices. They're very happy that they are given the opportunity to live in Candaway. In every Bible sharing they attend with neighbors, they develop strong feeling of the presence of God. And they're very thankful that now they're able to live a decent life. And in all these occasions, we always celebrate, and the parish priest is always present, together with some of our sisters, to thank God for all his loving providence. And also, the sisters from the nearby houses usually come to join during their anniversaries. And time to look at the past and appreciating God's accompaniment. Dr. Belende, the former Dr. Belende's observation, she said, the mission partners we have in this project, formerly called beneficiaries, are urban, rural, poor mix of clientele. These houses provided shelter to displaced persons, scavengers, fisher folks, blinds, squatters, who for reasons of poverty have no access to decent dwellings. On my personal gains and rewards, having managed the MRBOLC for 30 years, moving 33 years now, my personal gain is that I have personally known God and experienced how he journeyed with the people and provided them their needs. This taught me to become more contented with my life, and the experience added meaning to my vocation. All is born out of love for God and passion for the poor, for his greater glory and honor. Amen. Thank you and good morning.
Morning.
Thank you very much, Sister Carmeli, for the inspiration and for sharing with us your journey in the implementation of programs for the poor. Friends, we will have conversations with Sister Carmeli during the Q&A portion. If you have comments and questions, you can write them in the comment section below. Meanwhile, let me greet our participants from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, and in a special way, greet one of the members of the National Board, Sister Fe Herodias RVM, CEAP Region 12 Trustee. Good morning, Sister. Good morning, friends. Those who are watching from the different islands, keep safe. On to our second resource person. Our second resource person devoted his early years in various campus ministry missions, beginning with La Salle Green Hills, De La Salle College of St. Benil, and the University of St. La Salle, Bacolod. His continued interest in faith and Lasallian formation of adults and students led him to do formation work with the postulancy and Lasallian animation programs with various groups. School administration eventually caught up with him, and he found himself as president of De La Salle Canlubang from 2007 to 2010, president of La Salle Lipa, Batangas from 2010 to 2016, visiting professor in Singapore's St. Joseph Institution International, teaching world religions and values from 2016 to 2017. Currently, he is the president of the University of St. La Salle, Bacolod, an autonomous Catholic higher educational institution. He obtained a pharmacy degree from the University of the Philippines, Diliman, a master's degree in theological studies from Ateneo de Manila University, and a Doctor of Ministry degree from San Francisco Theological Seminary. Please welcome, with a virtual applause, Brother Joaquin Severino Martinez, FSC, or Broken for Brother Kenneth.
Thank you, Father Iking, for your introduction and for the invitation to share our humble work for the poor in the University of St. La Salle. And I'm also currently the president of St. Joseph's High School, La Salle, in Villamonte, Barangay Villamonte, Bacolod City. And also our supervised school in La Salle College Victorias, which is a tech walk school. In many ways, I would like to share from a personal experience before I begin. And that would be, I think, the foundation of my reflection. In 1999, when I came back from the States in my studies, the community was embarking on a mission for the poor, especially youth at risk. At that time, Brother Vincent Fernandez was already going to the Handumanan City Jail to speak every other Sunday and do something, work with the children in conflict with the law. I joined him, and that was in year 2000. By the time of 2002, Brother Gus Buker started the Bahay Pag-asa in the University of St. La Salle campus in Barangay Granada, a 55-hectare campus that integrates an eco park, the Bahay Pag-asa, and the agribusiness, all in the campus, about 20 minutes away from the city of Bacolod. Fast forward, I left Bacolod in 2003 and came back in 2017 as its president. I came back and went back to Bahay Pag-asa to see how it has been. And this time I had more time. As an administrator, sometimes when you're full of things in the office, you want to escape. And my escape was in the Eco Park. And the Eco Park gave me some breathing space and an ability just to be by myself, including in the Bahay Pag-asa Residential Center. We have about 27 kids, youth at risk, and those in conflict with the law or court appointed, and about 6 to 8 staff. I noticed that part and parcel of the cycle of poverty is that many kids really come from very, very poor environments. Some of them live in the markets. Some of them are living in isolated agriculture places. And some of them are children of day laborers, market vendors, where they are extremely vulnerable. And because of their vulnerability, the children are unable to go to school. And because they are unable to go to school, they are exposed to so many elements in their environment. And that leads to some form of petty crime or even serious crime. And one of the things that was my reflection was that, can we get them back on track? While they are with us, can they rewrite and find hope in the center so that when they leave the center, they can rewrite their history? It's a tall order because many times, because of their inability to go back into mainstream, their mental age is far below their physical age. So you have 17 years old, 16 years old, but their mental or academic age is grade 4, grade 5, and their emotional age, maturity, is also stunted. But one of the things that gives me a lot of courage is that we find the time to enroll them in school and to provide alternative learning systems to them and test the programs in the center and outside of the center. The second part of what I'd like to share is what I think is happening already. Many of our schools have now, in many ways, lower enrollment. In our university, it's the entry point, grade 1, grade 7, grade 8, and first year college. And a few, maybe 3 to 5% of returning students. My question is, where are the students who have not come back to school? This is not just the private school system, but the public school system have perhaps even lower number of students enrolling who are now somewhere out there, unable to go to school for the year and possibly for the rest of their years because of the extreme poverty that the pandemic has brought upon the poorer. And even those who are not poor have become poorer, unable to even bring their kids to the public school or to the private schools. I think this is a question I will always have in mind because unless they are able to go to school, they will be permanently excluded from the mobility of our young people in aspiring for a better life. This is what Saint LaSalle saw when he, as a parish priest, saw the plight of the poor young men, young kids, who were in the streets of Reims, France. And this converted him to see whether other young men can help him start a school for them. So the cycle of poverty is very difficult to, and like Sister Carmeli, it is through education that we are providing poverty alleviation. If you look at the vision is really a more inclusive growth, a more inclusive type of education that provides really development and prosperity for all. And I think Sister Carmel has mentioned a number of things like housing, scholarship, microfinancing, micro-entrepreneurship. These are very, very good things that we are also doing. But in terms of curricular, if you were to look at curricular, we have a number of things that can be available. One is inbuilt already, the NSTP. NSTP 1 and 2 can already be tuned in towards looking at small projects in direct service of poor communities. And you can look at also capstone projects in the senior high school. Or you could also look at service subjects or service classes, classes that have inbuilt already that is situated in a community as a resource to inform the content of classes. So you have a number of curricular programs that can enter through poverty alleviation. We have also, of course, research initiatives. During the K to 12 transition program, the CHED had asked universities to check whether we can load teachers with research loading. So we made a proposal for research programs, a few of them here. Basically, it's the study of the Iriwadi dolphins in Pulupandan and Bago area that involved a multidisciplinary study. So there were about a good number, almost 20 to 30 of our faculty members who looked at different aspects. And one of those are really basically livelihood development and environmental advocacy. You have the sustainability of marine protected areas and an ecotourism plan. So you look at fisheries. When you look at the profile of Philippine poverty, those who are most poor are in the fishing, coastal fishermen, and in the agriculture sector. So here, directly and indirectly, research has informed and helped coastal fishermen and small uh, small industries lying on the coast of Bago and Pulupandan. So, and then at the end of the day also, we were able to engage majority of our faculty in productive research. When you talk about what Sister had mentioned, partnership with industries is critical. So at the beginning of about 2 to 3 years ago, we had partnered with the city social welfare agency as they identified the poorest barangays, 62 barangays in Bacolod, and we adopted 7 with a memorandum of agreement. And the idea was basically that all colleges would look at their needs, and the Balayan office, which is a social action office, would match the needs of the barangays with the competencies of the various colleges. I think this is very much important as we look at also our own PAASCO accreditations, PACOCO accreditations. The higher you go in the accreditation, the more necessary it is to have evaluation and constant monitoring and need-based monitoring, research-based interventions in poor barangays. So we also have, like Sister, an agribusiness program. And here we had partnered with CIFI, which is the Sugar Industry Foundation of the Philippines under Edith Villanueva. And regularly we update with CIFI all encargados and agrarian reform beneficiaries. Not only with the latest in the sugar technology, but because we have a farm, an active farm in Agribiz, we have incorporated organic farming, hog raising, native chicken raising, duck raising, vermiculture, vermicasting in the modules. This is a four-month modules in the on-site in the agribusiness. We've also partnered with the Diocesan Social Action Group. They are really on the ground. One of the things that is critical for us is when academics is really a lot of our main work, we need to figure out who is listening on the ground on what is happening to our community, to our city, to our province. One of them would be basically through really regular interaction and dialogue with the Social Action Office of the Diocese under Father Chris. And then lastly, of course, because we are in many ways, really part in partnership with local government units. We really partner with Sugar Regulatory Administration, Bacolod City government, the provincial government. Uh, as I shared to you earlier, the local government units who send children to Pag-asa are covered with a MOA, Memorandum of Agreement, of what they will provide in return to sending their kids to Bahay Pag-asa. And the provincial government, realizing that we have a good program in Bahay Pag-asa of bringing kids back into the mainstream of society, have also supported us through the support of all previous governors of the province. And now also majority of our mayors are also supporting Bahay Pag-asa through an active memorandum of agreement. When you look at funding, I think this is very important for us. No? Many of our funding really comes from basically income from tuition. But income from tuition really is almost solely, as most schools go look at it, really goes to salaries and benefits of our teachers. And because many of our Catholic schools have very ambitious scholarship programs, it is also part and parcel that we are also having scholarship through our socialized tuition fee scheme. We have A, B, C, D, four categories where the tuition fee is gradated depending on their school of origin and their socioeconomic profile. So inbuilt into our college system, university system, including St. Joseph's, which is a junior high school system, is really a socialized tuition fee scheme so that we are able to insulate those who come from the public schools and those who come from very poor families from frequent increases in tuition fee. This is the inbuilt way in which we have entered. We also look at constantly monitoring who has not enrolled. And this is very important for us because as of lately, we have about 600, as of January 21, 600 unenrolled college students and about 300 unenrolled senior high school students. And they're already 1 week behind schedule. So we have to figure out what are ways in which we can assist them. We have to also realize that the poor is not just outside, it's now also inside our school. Our faculty and staff are now very vulnerable because their extra income and other income sources have almost dried up. There is no more tutorials, no more club moderatorships. Many of them, part-time teachers, have also no more load because of the priority to the full-time teachers. These are now difficult times for even our faculty and staff. So we continued and strengthened our Agape Fund. Our Agape Fund is really to support during this time of pandemic teachers and staff who are quarantined or have been diagnosed with COVID. They're testing, they're quarantining. So we've sent care packages. We've assisted them in their testing for COVID. We've assisted them in a number of ways in their medicines. So the Agape Fund is an internal fund that we raise because we believe that if we were to help the poor outside, we must help also those who are inside undergoing tremendous financial pressure. So we are happy we partnered also with United Board for Higher Christian Education, who has helped us also fund partly our Agape Fund. And we continue to reach out for fundraising opportunities for our teachers so that our Christmas concert, online Christmas concert, was for the Agape Fund. The way forward, I think when we look at the way forward, I think how do we keep our students enrolled? During this pandemic, when their income from OFW, from restaurants, hotels, small businesses that have now kalahati na lang ang kanilang earning or hindi na sila predictable ang kanilang earning. It's always, I'm thinking about that. When Sister Carmeli mentioned about Open University, I like to find out what that is. Kasi right now, may modular naman din kami kasi may night high school kami sa St. Joseph. So that's almost oversubscribed. Mga 200 plus na ang night school namin kasi ang daming nag-night high school. So find ways to connect to immediate needs of communities in danger due to floods, natural calamities, and lockdowns. It's the traditional way, but it's important because we don't know when poverty will really lead towards real hunger. We're discussing with a large NGO now how to form an alliance with public and private partnership to end hunger in Negros. You know, in the long time ago, I wasn't still around here, there was really the poster boy of a sugarcane worker's child who was really malnourished, extremely malnourished. So this is a program we hope to bring public institutions and private institutions together to keep hunger away from Negros. No details yet, but I hope it's forthcoming. And I would like to end with I deliberately went behind this painting by Aldrin Antiqueño. And I like to share one of my favorite, of course, is St. John Baptist de La Salle, but second favorite would be Mother Teresa. She shares, the most terrible poverty is loneliness and the feeling of being unloved. In our schools today, who are the unloved? Who are the lonely? Who are the marginalized? And how can we, as a community, make them feel that they are not alone and they are loved tremendously by God and by people who care for them? And that is not just thinking of big things. Sometimes I think also, as Mother Teresa said, if you can feed 100 people, then just feed one. Sometimes it's just that random act of kindness, charity, sensitivity, and understanding. That during this pandemic, we're so concerned, our agenda is full. But have we been kind to just one person that approached us? My philosophy is sometimes, and I don't do it perfectly, is that when someone is in need and it comes to my attention, a letter, a text message, a plea, it feels almost impossible to me not to neglect it, because this is what I feel is God's invitation for me to be with the poor, to alleviate poverty, and to continue as my vocation as a De La Salle brother. I invite you to keep your doors open, to listen with your heart and mind, and just to look at what you can do immediately in front of you. That is poverty alleviation on the micro, and that transforms all of us. Thank you very much, Father Iking. And thank you very much, CEAP, for inviting me. Lumabas ang pagka-campus minister ko, Sister, tsaka Iking. Thank you very much.
once again, Brother Kenneth and Sister Carmeli. Sister Carmeli's sharing was inspiring. Brother Kenneth's sharing was very heartwarming. And listening to your sharing, we can see a complete picture, right? Sister Carmeli's pursuit was on this direction, was on this side. Brother Kenneth was on this side. But I like to pick up some lines also from Brother Kenneth. He said, research has informed programs for the poor. Bro, you have given another perspective of programs for the poor by way of research. Right? Again, very inspiring. Thank you. I like to read some of the comments of some of our participants. Very interesting. Sister Gina Pios, CMI, she said, Sister Carmeli, your journey has been very inspiring. She said. Sister Ging Villador, AMP, also said, Sister Carmeli, your sharing was very, very relevant and timely. And then Norma Aldutra could only say, Sister, wow na wow. Not looking at all your slides and presentation, all she could say was wow na wow. And then Ma'am Riza Mingoy Padasa said, she's so inspired by what you've done for over 30 years.
Wow.
And Sister Ging Villador again came back and said, brother, you are the hand and the foot of Jesus. You're the hand and the foot of Jesus. And what you showed, the books that you showed, coming from your research for the fisher folks and everything, really, gave us wonderful perspectives of how we can also do our own community engagement. And then we have one from Bernadette De Leon. She says, wonderful program, Brother Kenneth. And somebody is saying here, Roderick Javier, nice to see you, bro.
Yeah.
Nice to see you. It was a complete picture of what a community engagement program should be. But I would like to start by asking Sister Carmeli and Brother Kenneth some questions. I like to go deeper into your engagements and programs for the poor. I like to begin with Brother Kenneth. The 2020 NEDA data show that the province of Negros Occidental ranks 7th richest in the Philippines. My question, bro, is what accounts for poverty in Negros Occidental aside from the factors that you have so far mentioned? I mean, if the province is the 7th richest, what do you think are the reasons why there still is there's so much poverty still in some sectors, like in Bacolod and in the neighboring cities, bro?
Thank you for mentioning that. Part and parcel of that richness, and I like to see the study from what basis there is that NEDA had shared that, was basically of the presence of the sugar industry. The mills, the industries that rely on the mills and sugar have kept Negros afloat. And of course, recent businesses like contact centers have come into the play also. And then it has become basically also a resort and convention center, because Bacolod has truly world-class cuisine. How do you say? Philippine class cuisine. People love it here to eat their chicken inasal. However, as you know, the trickle-down effect has not really trickled down. So we have really the inequity, because the opportunities that the sugar industry provides for inclusive growth is not yet as predominant, although we are already noticing that there are increasing number of ARBs, Agrarian Reform Beneficiaries, attending our CFI seminar, whereas before the encargados were the only ones. These are people in charge of haciendas. So we have a large land of plot, but very few opportunities. And then I think one of the reasons also is that education has to be really farmed out of the cities. The cities are the one contributing, but when you look at the area outside of the cities, there is less income outside of the cities. So I would not be surprised that majority of those who are contributing are in the major cities of Negros, not in the hinterlands, not in the barrios and farms. So that's my assumption. But I'd like to see where that income, where that tag has come from.
Thank you very much, bro. Very true. What you mentioned about trickle down effect.
Parang hindi eh. Pero now even more because the trickle down to the level of the tricycle drivers, the sari-sari store owners. I think there is, but it has radically been reduced because of the frequent lockdowns. So that NEDA might have changed already after the lockdown. They may have to study it further. But one good thing that we need to see is mapping. How many of our cities are mapped in their socio-economic profile, in their livelihood? Wala pa masyado tayong ganong studies. In fact, that should be the next. We partnered with Zero Extreme Poverty, which is the Office of the Vice President, and Brother Armin enrolled us. So we're hoping to pilot test a specific area and do a stronger intervention and see whether some of the components that define poverty will increase because of our intervention, will decrease rather because of our intervention. We like to look at small and then we can replicate it in other areas.
A lot of our schools probably, brother, are interested in your research models, especially the research that informs programs for the poor, and probably in the coming months we can invite you to share how this is done, particularly on the aspect of research, so we can learn, and then we can probably do the same thing in the different areas across the Philippines.
We can invite Father Iking. We can invite Father Romy Teruel, who is an agricultural researcher who looked at agricultural productivity before he joined the university, and also our Balayan director, Andre Tagamulila.
We will look at this, brother, as one of the JEEPGY pursuits.
Yes, please.
I'll move on to Sister Carmeli. The curriculum innovation for agribusiness is interesting. You mentioned this in your presentation. And SHED funded this.
Yes, Father.
How can schools possibly replicate the program, Sister? Like, if you can share with us some possible steps that we can undertake so that we can also duplicate the program in our areas.
Yes, Father, because it is really a commitment that we have to replicate the project. And I would suggest that because I have informed him to contact Dr. Jose Medina at La Constitucion College by ICT, because that's a mandate for them to replicate the project.
Thank you, Sister. Back to you, Brother Kenneth. Many of our Catholic schools, colleges, and universities implement community extension or community engagement programs. What we do not commonly see, however, is a thorough study of communities where school programs for the poor are implemented. Over at the University of St. LaSalle, Bacolod, however, your MOA with the 7 poorest barangays, you mentioned this a while ago, in Bacolod, implements needs-based intervention to alleviate poverty. Can you share more on the importance of needs-based interventions and the process you used in arriving at needs-based interventions so that our CEAP member schools can probably learn from your experience or follow what you have done, the model that you are somehow pursuing now?
What has really been the traditional social action model basically is that the schools would really go to an adopted community and then figure out what's the fruit that is closest for them for the picking. Easy interventions. And when you look at it, it doesn't really uplift the situation of the barangays or the community, partly because they become dependent on you rather than they become self-sufficient, which is I guess, the goal of every school, that when they engage, that engagement is temporary and not permanent. Because then they have to figure out. Of course, that's easily said than done. No? Now, basic to the engagement of an adopted community, more and more accreditation groups like PACOCOA, PAASCU, CHED are now looking at studies done by the university, mapping of socioeconomic profile, health profile of the community. Therefore, you cannot intervene without that kind of study done. And that's very important. And the main conduit of those studies should be the research unit of the university and the social action center of the university, in this case, Arbalayan, have to come together to invest on that. It is a very important investment because then we feel it would lead to greater relevance of the programs of the university. And then the evaluation must be regular. As a PAASCU accreditor also, in the in the community engagement, I've done that a number of times. I've always looked at evaluation through focus group discussion, through interviews, and through surveys done. And then you validate with focus group discussion. I think this is the cycle that really needs to be necessary. And then once that study is done, you can now present this to other international universities, other international NGOs. This is the key to get funding. Funding is really establishing a very good base of research to back your interventions, and to invite others to help in their interventions through their own resources. So yun ang maganda dito. Hindi mo makakaya lahat, pero magagawa kung meron kang paperwork. You have the necessary paperwork. Kasi masyadong action-oriented ang mga social action units natin. Pero once their paperwork is absent, they remain within their own small areas.
Because I was actually trying to imagine, brother, the work that Sister Carmeli did.
Yes.
Prepared for the housing project. I mean,
yes.
Architectural, funding, getting the land from partner LGUs and everything. So I could just imagine, Sister Carmeli, how you did everything, and the preparation you had to go through, the preparation work you had to endure and undertake for you to be able to implement the housing project. So how did it all come about, Sister? Like what work did you undertake for you to be able to really get into the housing project, funding, architectural plan, soil analysis, and then LG partnerships? Sister, can you share with us your own journey?
Actually, Father, that was offered. I didn't apply for it because I know it's a hard work. But because the executive director of the German doctors was the one prodding me to go into it, and the beneficiaries were also asking me to help them. In one of my retreats, it passed in my mind, and I believe it is an inspiration, that if I'm not going to help them, who will help them? So I decided to write just a one-page letter and fax it to the executive director, and it was immediately approved, and I was asked to go into the full preparation of the project. So I have to ask somebody, Edmar Abilia, to look for somebody who can design a socialized housing, because that's beyond my capacity as a woman. So God connects me to people who can really assist. Like, for example, even in this agriculture, Father, they just volunteered. All of them just come. Even this Dr. Rivera also come. Even this Dr. Belen offered me, let me help you start your university. Because in reality, Father, I don't know how to run the university because we don't have a university in our congregation. So when Dr. Belen said that I will help you start, it was really God sent. And I said, tomorrow you can report. But I don't know how to pay you because we don't have money. I said, don't pay me. So welcome, welcome, God, brother. Oh.
Dr. Belen De Jesus was really selfless. She was my professor at De La Salle for research and Prima and everything. She was the one who actually took me to Margarita in Bulacan for an exposure about 2 weeks, I think. Yeah. So, but sister, I was really wondering how you sisters did that project, because I said unless there is a sister who is an engineer and familiar with construction work, but I was wondering how you carried out your housing project. But of course, you tapped some resources. But that was really wonderful. That was really wonderful. I would like to just read one wonderful comment coming from one of our listeners and participants, from Lu Agbing. She says, fantastic and impressive programs for the poor, very effective as the results have shown. These are in the provinces. Question, will they work with success as they did in the city? In what ways? Any of you can answer. Like the fisher folks and everything, how can you more or less duplicate that, brother? No? Or the housing project, sister, how can you do that? No, in, let's say, in urban centers, in big places.
Father, I believe that we were, in a way, successful in a sense because the mayors were the one who really asked me to put the project there. But with their assistance, that they are the ones who will look for the place and develop the place, and ours is just to erect the units. And so all this, I know it's God's work because they just come. Even this JICA, I'm not supposed to be there because, this is bilateral agreement with the government. So one of them questioned, why is there somebody from the private attending this seminar? The project director said, we want to try her project. So that's why we started. And there was a white elephant building at the Plaridel, and the mayor offered to me. And so we talked, and then we had beautiful equipments because funded by JICA, and we were able to establish a good performance because I was able to get the former medical director of Provincial Hospital of Dumaguete, who was retired, and I said, please help me. And then he helped me start it and able to serve 24 hours because before it was just a clinic and then emergency hospital. We were able to convert it into a secondary hospital with all the people collaborating, not me. They just come. Padala ng Panginoon. Hindi ko yun alam yun, Father.
Thank you, sister. Actually, Brother Kenneth, it was providential because when I was sent by De La Salle University to Bulacan for an exposure, because prior to that, I never met Sister Carmeli. And then when I heard her family name, said, this sounds familiar. This sounds very Dumaguete. So I approached her, I asked her, sister, do you have relatives in Dumaguete? And she said, yes. And that was when I asked, why don't you do the same thing there, over in Negros? And that was more or less the start back in 1992. That was the start. So really providential, like what you also mentioned, brother. When you do the work of the Lord, everything falls into its proper place.
Yes. I'd like to also answer you, Father Iking, no? A long time ago, many of the major universities of La Salle in Manila had some form of summer of service. Of course, the pandemic has changed that, no? But in the summer of service, you have teachers, students coming together, staying in a provincial school and really doing direct service to that school or to the poor in the area. And the conduit of that is the provincial schools. So Metro Manila schools and provincial schools can start networking for summers of service, identifying needs in the province areas like in La Salle University in Ozamis had regular summer of service recipients. We have a school in Jaime Hilario in Baga, also regular recipients of summer of service. Here in Bacolod, they had summers of service. They stay in the school, and multi-groups of faculty and staff and students working together for a common project. That would be one. Second, do not discount. The highly urbanized schools have many resources and they are magnets for fundraising. This is the reason why in Bacolod, you call and rally people and they see your sincerity in helping, they will help. So like Sister said, you approach, you call, people are waiting to help. And they're waiting to provide the resources and time to help. So that's why very important. We have to have venues outside of our urban structures to find students' involvement in outdoor education. So I'm asking our academic team, can we provide an outdoor education that will involve showing our students the potential of and protection of the environment, have a retreat, and have agricultural input to show them a slice of what it means to protect the environment and to promote agriculture. So we're trying to do, when I'm proposing that we do that next school year in lieu of a recollection, in lieu of a immersion or exposure. It will be in our own eco park. It will be integrated recollection, social action, environmental education. Para hindi piecemeal, because normally separate ang recollection, separate ang exposure, separate ang... So kung titingnan natin, can urban universities partner with provincial schools and give them an opportunity to see the province and to see what they can do in the provinces?
Thank you, sister. Thank you, brother. In other words, in response to the question coming from Mamlu Agbing, it doesn't matter where you are,
yes,
as long as the call to transformation is felt and urgent, you can do community engagement.
You can.
Maybe right at the heart of Metro Manila, but because life in Metro Manila is not perfect, then there's something you can do, to effect change, and so the transformation can come about. Like urban poor, or if you're in the province and you talk about fisher folks, and agri and everything, but in Metro Manila, based on what you need, based on what the call is of a given place, you can do something. The most important thing is we do empowerment, we do transformation, and for as long as these are urgent and necessary, there always is a place for community engagement wherever we are. That's how it is. Now, that's how I look at it. So thank you again, Mamlu Agbing. I have a lot of questions coming in, Sister Carmeli, Brother Kenneth. We have one from whose name sounds like an international figure, Goldemir Garcia Arabaca. She says, do you have programs that focus on the elementary level other than tutorials? Like, how were you able to apply for funding from these agencies? So she has two questions. Anybody can answer. The programs for the elementary, and how did you apply for funding from agencies?
At the moment, the elementary is very, very limited because of the pandemic. That's one, okay? That's very important for us to realize that the pandemic has prevented us from really doing a lot of outreach programs, a lot of sensitivity sessions. But when you look at it, I think the grade school can really be exposed to social action initiatives through videos, through insertion into their own curriculum. Can they figure out what is the social responsibility component of some of our Christian living programs, some of our Adaling Palilipunan programs? how can it be inserted? Because admittedly, there would be very difficulty. So I think for the meantime, it has to be curricular integration. No? And then we have to figure out when can we do feasible with all the requirements necessary for the pandemic to expose them in a more outdoor type of education. When that opportunity comes, you have to be prepared now. And I think very important that there will be some form of, you remember some of our Catholic schools have social action fees, recollection fees. Can we integrate that and just show that these fees will come together and then this is what we will be doing for them?
So in other words, bro, based on the context, because we cannot be sending our elementary pupils out, definitely. And,
but we have an opportunity because we have Eco Park that's 20 hectares with its own workshop, with outdoor venues, etc. Yan ang maganda. And the kids have not been able to go to outside without fear. So if it's outdoor and all the protections are there, why not? Why not? And then you can just beam it. If they cannot really go because their parents do not allow, you accompany them, you get a team who will do the moment to moment and then feed them through FB Live, like we're doing here.
In other words, awareness, raising awareness among kids. So eventually they'll develop that perspective and they'll be able to pursue something like this in the future when they get older and when they're more capable of doing things for society, for communities.
Or their circle of influence will be in their own homes and neighborhood. Meaning their application for conservation, reuse, recycle, reduce, are in the homes. So their family will feel that environmental education is now happening in their own homes.
As well, yeah. Thank you. Yeah,
so the field is their home, their neighbor.
Thank you, brother. Sister Carmeli, would you like to add?
Father, I just would like to advise that before you can access grants, you still have to show that you have something that you have started and that you're able to establish a track record. And then in there, they can be, like now, the Australian is offering a grant for an innovative approach in education. But I did not, I just smiled at her. But there's so many, as long as you are able to come up with innovative approach in bringing education and following the idea of that no one should be left behind, that you should really have that in your mind, that you want that the people will have access to education. So there's so many available, but you need to come up first with your own, using your own resources so that you can come up, you can show to them that this is what we have started. And then people will just come and ask you, how can I help you expand your project? Yeah. Even in organic farming, somebody said, how can I make your organic farming expand? And please identify what are the available resources coming from the government. That's why you really have to also look into what's the direction of the government, and you assist them so that at least you're sure that the money of the government will really reach the people intended. Because if no one will help them, then it will just go to the pockets.
Thank you, sister. In other words, Ma'am Golda, you need to start small, and eventually funding agencies will just come and then help you nurture what you have planted, so that it becomes big, and then it can reach out to as many people as it should. Probably, you cannot tap a funding agency and then bring it in and then start something. I think you really have to also show some expertise and do something. Probably because a lot of things are coming in, a lot of questions, actually proposals are coming in, Brother Kenneth and Sister Carmeli. We will see in JEEPGY how we can further pursue these things, especially.
Another advice, Father, is no funding agency will extend funds to school. You need to put up a foundation, a separate entity. So that's why I'd like to advise that put up a separate foundation for your program for the poor.
Thank you. We have here a proposal from Cherry Belen. She says, we hope Sister Carmeli and also Brother Kenneth are open to an exchange of ideas with a group of Ma'am Cherry Belen, as they also are engaged in similar programs. Like they also have a housing project in Batangas.
Wow.
So they'd like Sister to probably benchmark. You can benchmark with each other so they can discuss things with you and then see how things are being implemented, so that your experiences, I mean, your implementation of pro-poor programs can be further enriched.
That's right, Father. Thank you for the offer.
Yeah, Ma'am Cherry Belen, we will try to keep in touch with you so that we can facilitate the discussion, the conversations, and the meeting, probably with Sister Carmeli's group and those other groups who also would like to partner with Brother Kenneth for LaSalle initiated programs for the poor can also do the same thing. So thank you very much.
Father Iking, one also possibility is that you engage with people who are already doing housing, like Habitat for Humanity or GK Village, where there is obviously sometimes not all GKs are doing very well. So an existing group or a startup can be also the natural way in which schools can come in. No, so you don't have to do everything. You can focus on what you can do in an existing community already or with an existing organization, so that you don't have to start from scratch. Because starting from scratch is really going to entail a lot of resources and attention. At the moment, I have to be very honest with you, our attention is sustaining our educational mission. And that would be a difficult discussion with administration if we were to start something from scratch. And like what Sister had mentioned, determine what is your circle of influence. Try not to think too big yet. Try to think about what is small that can be replicated and that can be easily influenced by your own staff and programs. And then see how that can be sustained once it's successful by outside support.
And if I may add, brother, start with your expertise. Like in one of my conversations with the great Father Johnny Miranda, SVD, former member of the CEAP National Board and former president of the University of San Carlos in Cebu, I learned that curricular programs of colleges and universities can run parallel in the implementation of pro-poor programs in communities. Example, engineering students can pursue construction-related programs. Now, in other words, make use of what you have and help, right? So curricular in nature, like you have education students, what can they do in a given community, for example? Probably do literacy programs, no? Or catechetical. Now, if you have well-ed students, so something that revolves around your expertise.
Yes, that's correct. In fact, we have a project called Project 4. The European universities partnered with Erasmus Mundi, sponsored 4 European universities to do serious intervention in education in the country. And there were 2 schools, 2 to 3 schools with different deficiencies in the province. So one is in La Carlota, one is in Bacolod, and they called on our College of Education to work on modules that will intervene in their deficiencies. So these are 4 European universities in Groningen and Netherlands and Scandinavian countries. They came over here, and the project is a joint module to make serious intervention on the identified public schools. So yun, nakita nila yung proficiency namin and willingness to work with them, and we are now jointly making modules as of now. So yun, education, and then you have European universities coming to us.
You know, brother, we can even connect that with diocesan programs. Like we have the catechetical program in the dioceses. Our colleges and universities can probably offer to the dioceses like training for catechists to professionalize, and so whatever we can extend based on our expertise, based on our resources, we can extend. The most important thing is we help in the transformation of communities. I think that's a very core principle of community engagement.
And then you did it yourself, Father, when you provided opportunities for guidance counselors and librarians in our diocesan schools and other schools who have no training or no license, no licensed guidance counselors to do initial training, capacity building training. You did that with UNOR and us. Yeah. So that's bringing two schools together for a common project. You did that for us. So we continue to do that. Project Free, which is the 1,000 scholars for the public school provided by the provincial government. Nagkaroon ng empty seat scholars where the diocesan schools and religious schools can now join the public school teachers. Kasi sister and our dear CEAP, when we open scholarships, minsan our classes are 10, 20 in a graduate school. Why not, since the teacher is already there, why not add 10 more scholarships coming from the poor schools who cannot afford to send, who do not have faculty development programs? Yun ang ginawa namin with Father Iking across the entire island, where we have now scholars from all diocesan schools learning with the Project Free, masters in various subjects, and PhD. So ngayon, naka-enroll na ang mga diocesan school teachers and administrators. And we can expand that even more, Iking. So, pag undersubscribe, dagdagan. Anyway, 10, papayag naman ng teacher, 10 additional more, 12 more. Ano ba naman yan? So yun ang nangyayari. Pwede. So if you look at the intervention, pwede, we can ally with schools. Maybe the pandemic has brought us together to see more and more what we can do together. Diba? Where we didn't do it during the pandemic.
Yes, sister. Actually, for the information of our CEAP schools, here in Negros Island, there are 4 dioceses. And when I came in as trustee back in 2016, I made sure I would be able to really tap the resources of big universities. We have 3 Catholic universities here: University of St. La Salle in Bacolod, University of Negros Occidental Recoletos, and St. Paul University Dumaguete. We tap these institutions to provide training. So we had capacity building for librarians, guidance counselors, religion teachers, so that they can be prepared. And we also were able to get 100 scholarships from La Salle for the 4 dioceses, for our diocesan and congregational schools. It's a wonderful partnership. And that's why I said this really is capacity building, and it's a way of helping small schools. In fact, for Sister Carmeli and Brother Kenneth, I have a question for both of you, which more or less is connected. No, I was just reminded many of our member schools are small mission schools, are also in need of help. My question is, how can small struggling schools contribute to poverty reduction? Because if I may quote St. John Paul II, he would say, nobody is so poor, he has nothing to give. And nobody is so rich, he has nothing to receive. Based on your experiences as administrators, like Brother Kenneth, although you're president of the University of St. La Salle, you also are running a small mission school. Yeah. Sister Carmeli was once president of the university, but she also keeps in touch with small schools. But how did you do this? How can small mission schools, despite their own poverty, help and reach out to help the poor in the area?
I will share something, ganito. Kasi St. Joseph's High School is about 2 to 3 kilometers away. It's totally different socioeconomic profile. Really children of public school teachers, etc. Now, when they started doing vacancies of their HR, moving to greener pastures, or when the finance director retired, instead of hiring, what we did was I extended the service of my staff in the university, and they are the ones helping there for allowances, not for employment, allowances. So if you look at small schools, can your directors and presidents start discussing how you can feasibly cluster already? Kasi mas mahirap ngayon talaga ang small school. Kung ang malalaking school, ang tubig nandito na sa leeg dahil sa mga collection problems or enrollment problems, ano pa kaya ang small schools? Can we now go beyond the thinking of small schools in nearby areas and begin the discussion, how can we cluster? Kasi if the majority of our income really goes to salaries and benefits, can we lower that by clustering instead of, kunyari, 300 ng ako, I'm a school of 300 students, and there's nearby 200 students, can there just be one principal? Kasi yun ang ginagawa namin ngayon sa St. Joseph, but since it's an allied LaSalle school, baka yun lang ang nagagawa namin kasi allied, no separate employment contract. But when you think about it, small schools taking care of so few, but you have a structure na kailangan may nurse, kailangan may dentista, kailangan merong finance person, kailangan, ang dami mong kailangan sa plantilla ng personnel, pero ang liit ng pinanggagalingan ng income mo. Why can't we now share? If you are a school leader of a small school, can you start talking with your neighboring schools? It's quite radical, but if you want to survive, I believe this is the way to survive. To keep your identity, but to share now your human resources.
Thank you. Thank you, brother. Sister Carmeli, would you like to add to Brother Kenneth's?
Yes, I go for that, but I've noticed that there are so many who have started doing that clustering, but I saw the need of preparing them.
Yeah.
Because I saw that they just have a name that, we are clustered, and then, but there's no clear function. And then there should really be training for the administrator, the how to go about it. So that's why I was saying that now it's different. Before we were saying that to prepare ourselves because the fewer sisters and all of that, then we have to partner with our lay people, lay empowerment. But there were no training. So it's just on the idea. But my idea is when we go into implementing a succession program, it should be coupled with training. And also, if you go into clustering, like for example, merging and all of that, you follow the system of how to go into merging. You know, the businesses are advanced, in terms of doing this, but we can learn from them how to work into merging these three schools. But it should not be only on the word merging or clustering, but we really have to write down the how to go about it, and there should be training for those who will implement it. That's one lucky.
Yeah.
Sister Carmeli, Brother Kenneth, that's as far as internal efficiency is concerned, right? In running schools, especially small schools. But I'd like to ask you, what about what small Catholic schools or mission schools can do for the community? Especially if they're small mission schools, what can they possibly contribute to the community? Aside from working on their internal efficiency and effectiveness, clustering and everything, but what about extending help to the community, even as poor mission schools? Can they do that, and what are the concrete examples? Yes, Sister Carmel.
First, Father, I'd like that, like for example, in our own school, you still have to look into the people who will need also. Like for example, I have discovered that some of our non-teaching personnel, they are not even high school graduate. So it means you look into your inner inner circle first, and for them also to be able to help. Like for example, you have to know your community, like who are, because to me my understanding is that the presence of a school in a community, especially a Catholic school, you should be able to do something and improve the community. And so you can invite them and come up with especially now you come up with innovative approach in what way you can really first and foremost. For we targeted, when we started that in Bulacan, we targeted the public school students because English is introduced only when they reach grade 3. So they really don't know uh, from grade 1 to grade 2. So what we did is we bring in the those who are not yet studying, being taught by our teachers, grade school teachers during Saturday, during Saturday. But they get an allowance because we were able to get also grants for that, because we have to act out. I'd also identify who can be supportive of this. But even if you're a small school, you can really do, and but the only thing is you need to really visit your nearest community and be with them and really stay with them for a while before you can introduce a project. But there's so many ways in establishing this, but you have to know first who are your neighbors, and then identifying what you have that you can offer to them, that you believe that this will be a lifetime help for them because they learn. It is really, I believe, it's really education that we need to promote and then bring this to all, making accessible to all. So it's just a matter of really not exposure. Exposure sa lang yan eh. Immersion talaga, bababad ka talaga sa tao para malalaman mo paano ka makakatulong. At hindi yan hula-hula, no? It should really be coming from them, their expressed desire and aspirations. You have to listen to their own dreams. They have their own dreams and aspirations. And you try to come up with them, in a sense, what specific program, like for example, those who had been engaged in business, we offered that in the university, the CEAP, that was sponsored by authored by Dr. Catalino Rivera, because they didn't have a chance to go to higher education, but we got, like, we don't offer English 1, English 2, English 3, English 4. We offer this as one, and that they are considered, they can be graded based on their performance. Like, for example, if they have a business already, if they can come up with a business proposal, that is already credited that they have finished all the English subjects. Yeah, I mean, if you know that, brother, the ITIA.
Yes.
So there's so many ways, but you need to really immerse it's a community, so that what you're offering is truly addressing their needs, not the needs of the school. Sincere desire to really make education accessible to majority.
Thank you very much, Sister Carmeli. Would you like to add quickly, Brother Kenneth?
Yes. Alam mo, aside from what Sister Carmeli had shared, to immerse intensely in the community, please note that there are programs that are really time and context specific. We are surprised that students are taking the initiative. we have the idea that it's always the adults. During the pandemic, we had senior high school students going around raising funds and helping the people in the community. I was surprised on their own. So sometimes you'd be surprised how they do fundraise. They were selling corn and they put a premium price. Buy corn, you're helping people in the hospital. There was a time the Corazon Montilibono Memorial Hospital, the watchers were all outside because they were not allowed to enter the hospital. They might be the source of COVID-19. So many of the watchers were outside of the hospital. So what happened was it was rainy season. So some of our senior high school students were there providing food for without us telling them to do it. So figure out, are there initiatives already that you can support that the kids are doing on their own? This is piecemeal. That's not a program, but it's an immediate effect of helping people immediately because their need is urgent.
Father.
Support them. Facilitate their help.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Quickly na lang po, sister, because we still have a lot of questions.
Father, I would like to endorse what the brother was saying, that the administrators will not require the senior high school to ask permission to do this. Allow them to use the activity, because there are administrators who will always say, you did not ask permission. You are curtailing the creativity of the students. It's their own way of reaching out to people,
Yeah.
So it's a matter of really also educating our own administrators that we should not control so much if we want people to grow.
Yeah.
Thank you, sister. Brother Kenneth, meron lang rejoinder. Are you saying, Bro Kenneth, that we ought to cluster with small schools which are not ours?
What you can do is basically this, no? Start the conversations. Will the presidents allow to small schools to reach out to other small schools and see what are the resources that they can help share? Yun naman isang parang, kasi sinasabi natin, okay, accredited schools must have school dentist, school doctor, school nurse. And if you have that in the employment and you have 200 students, 300 students, you're supporting. How about sharing?
Yeah.
Some of these resources? Can the initial discussion be, let's not think of merging, let's not think of let's think of intensely collaborating so that we can keep our cost reasonable and it doesn't go up. Is it possible? Yun ang gusto kong tanungin sa inyo. Kasi pag merging, ay nako, very protective na. Merging is so far down the line. And we have already LaSalle Supervised Schools Office. They have a system of supervision. Pwede na, kagaya ng ginagawa na ngayon ng Ayala Schools, isang principal, multiple schools.
Yeah.
Isang academic coordinator, multiple schools, and sinusupervise. Now, you don't really need even to go physically. You can connect with them virtually. You can supervise virtually. So, that brings the cost down.
Yes.
Now, kung ayaw nyo yung cost na and the costs are keeping going up, then you have to figure out either you close down or you just hang on by the nail, by your fingernail, or you figure out, is it good enough that we start discussing this as presidents and directors of schools?
Thank you, brother. We will probably introduce and pursue that model and further discuss that in CEAP, and see if there are existing paradigms that followed. We can benchmark and we can probably introduce, because honestly, like in our school system in the Diocese of Dumaguete, that's what we're doing. We have one licensed librarian for all, and she has a PhD and everything, and she's the one supervising. So we get to help and we can collaborate and cluster. Actually, Sister Carmeli, Brother Kenneth, we have a lot of questions coming in, but I just would like to, they're becoming very interested in the programs that you have shared. Now, I'd like to go through them as quickly as I can. Now,
Yes.
for Sister Carmeli, by the way, that question, brother, about clustering was coming from Monica Navarro. Thank you, Ma'am Monica, for participating. We have one from Marietta de Biliran, Dr. Marietta Biliran. Now, her request for Sister Carmeli is, kindly share the interventions you have introduced to your beneficiaries that empower them to regenerate themselves into agents of change for others who are still part of the last, the least, and the lost. Intervention program, sister.
It's really more on the skills training, Father.
Okay.
So that in Kandawai, I'm very proud to share with you that we were able to, from among them, to become entrepreneurs. And I'm very happy because these entrepreneurs are also employing the children from the community. So the children, they are able to, they're able to earn during weekends and use that as their baon for the whole week. And aside from that, at least they are freed from, drugs and all of that because they are busy. They don't have time. It's really more on really giving education and all adult, there's other approach on in training them. I would suggest that we really come up with a systematic program on how to educate the adults in becoming entrepreneurs themselves so that they can multiply multiply jobs in their community and improve the community. And this is really my aspirations, that it can be followed and really empower them, not the sisters controlling them, but allowing them to really become creative and really think of how they can manage their community without the presence of the religious. That's phasing out.
Thank you, sister. Actually, there's a corollary question to that, sister, coming from Ariel Empinado. He says, how do we sustain the livelihood programs, especially like in sectors that are badly affected by the pandemic, like the fisher folks? They don't have much income. If I may share my experience and quickly, Brother Kenneth and Sister Carmeli, there's one cooperative here in Shaton in Negros Oriental. The cooperative produces shrimps. At the height of the pandemic, since they could not export their shrimps to Manila, Cebu, and even Bacolod, they were looking for partners who could help them with the selling of the shrimps, of the products, kasi nag-harvest sila. What I did, I called up my friends, and I said, are you interested? There's a cooperative that's willing to sell at a very low price. I was able to sell, for example, in one day, 100 kilos of shrimps. But weeks after, when I was talking to some of my friends, some of them were saying, the reason why we bought shrimps, Father, kasi naawa kami sa'yo. Sabi nila, kasi wala ka ng minsa at nagtitinda ka na lang ng shrimp. Hacking yun. I was just helping out. But the pandemic has really changed. Nagtitinda na ako ng shrimps. But nevertheless, it was a welcome development because I was able to help cooperative. But how do we sustain livelihood?
One of the things is basically come up with rules and regulations regarding to the use of funds. Yung mga micro-entrepreneurs, we normally there are bookkeepers. Alam ni sister nito, pag microfinance, the Negros Women Foundation is one of the largest, and they have so many rules and regulations for regarding livelihood and how the base funds can be used and should be only used. That's one very important. Find out internal rules and get people who are very vigilant to be the leaders. That's very important. Identifying the leaders. And the women leaders are very, very good. Extremely, of the micro-entrepreneurs, almost 70 to 80% are women entrepreneurs. And they're very mabusisi sa kanilang project. If you want to really figure out how to make them independent, I would say find a timeline and work back. Timeline of your engagement. In the community, you say we will be engaged in the next 2 years. and this is our terminal goal, and work backwards. How will that happen? And calibrate as you move along until you can look at that timeline in which to do everything. This is a memo. We follow that timeline, we will follow. So I think it's really vigilance, Father Iking, over rules, regulations, dealing with microfinancing, livelihood funds, etc. And third, kasi normally, inuutang yan. Nagkasakit, kailangan ng bulong, kailangan ng pupunta ng OFW abroad, kailangan ng pera, nagwi-withdraw na hindi na above the limit. So when you think about that, many are situational problems that come about in a regular day-to-day that they really don't have any spare cash. That's the problem. Yung minsan nag-exposure ako, tinatanong ko sa mga tao, ba't ka nagpa 5-6? Sabi niya, saan ako pupunta pag kailangan ko ng pera? Paano nalalaman ng 5-6 na hindi mo tinatakbuhan? Kung tinakbuhan ko ang 5-6, sino uli magpapautang sa akin? That's the problem. That's a difficult cycle. They are out of, there is no one who will lend them. And if they run away from what they have lent, nobody will be able to help them and get the money that they need. So this one, when you talk about livelihood, micro-entrepreneurship or microfinancing, it's a good idea. It's a good idea. We used to have a BRC model, Business Resource Center, under Carmen Benares, and that already died down in a sense, a natural death. But I think in this time of age, we should think of those programs again.
Yes.
Figure out the microfinance model is a very good model. It's yung Grameen Bank model. So have a timeline. Work backwards. How will you achieve that timeline? And second, look at the vigilance of people and entrust them the responsibility of taking care that they be disciplined in the livelihood funds that they have been entrusted.
Thank you very much, brother. We really would like to entertain more questions, but we're running out of time. But I just would like to read two more entries coming from our participants, from Virginia Cordoves and from Rachel Pita Budlong Katindoy from Leyte. I'll share this with you. Interesting. How can we avail that training for capacity enhancement of non-licensed guidance staff? Okay, I'll answer that. Ma'am Katindoy, actually, this was a program of CEAP Negros Island. I tapped our universities in the area. We had brainstorming on the module and everything. And we designed a module for capacity building for non-guidance counselors and non-licensed, and librarians, and then religion teachers. And then we provided them the training. No, hindi nga lang yung phase 1, nagkaroon pa ng phase 2, nagkaroon pa ng second batch, nagkaroon pa ng phase 3. My proposal is we can share with you the model, and we will see in Leyte what, because she's from Holy Trinity College and AR School, we will see in Leyte which universities, CEAP universities can be tapped, and probably replicate our program here in CEAP Negros Island, and then probably run it there by yourselves, or we can probably think of online classes that we can do for you or for anyone interested. We will see that. We'll discuss that in the council. I'll discuss that as well with La Salle and UNOR and St. Paul University. So we will see what we can do to extend all the way to Leyte.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, we can share with you the model so that if you can run it yourselves. I'll talk to Father Ray Navidad, your trustee for CEAP Region 8, and see what we can do. So I hope I answered your question. Second is, can CEAP organize benchmarking trips to selected schools, preferably by region, so that it is accessible to smaller missions, smaller schools and colleges? Probably benchmarking to find out how things are being done elsewhere. So we will also pursue this in JEEPGY as part of our direction, Ma'am Virginia Cordoves, together with the suggestion of Ma'am Katindoy. We will pursue these proposals of yours and see. We will let you know through your trustees what the progress is of your proposals. No, but thank you for giving us the idea. And I just would like to plug something. Plugging lang, CEAP has a JEEPGY fund for all regions. These funds can be utilized annually to finance livelihood projects. The first project, in fact, on CEAP Negros Island was piglet dispersal. This was carried out through La Consolacion College of Bais. Something similar can also be rolled out by schools, by regions, and by communities. The only requirement is a simple proposal to avail of the fund. Course it through your regional trustee, and you'll get the fund. So that's about it. I just would like to do some shout outs to Father Jobert Villasis, trustee of Region 6 nagreklamo. Bakit daw siya hindi binati? Sabi ko, hindi binati ko si Sister Fe. Pero yes, no. Sabi ko, sige, babatiin kita. Father Jobert.
Father Jobert.
And greeting you of Region 6. At may tanong pa siya, sabi niya, kay John Paul II pala yung Nobody is so poor. Okay, nabasa ko una yan. Una kong nabasa yan sa PCP2 document. But as I was researching, I realized parang si St. John Paul II yata ang unang nag-comment ng line. So but anyway, no, I was just trying to quote St. John Paul. Sister Carmeli, Brother Kenneth, it has been a very enriching and meaningful morning with you. And I really appreciate all the experiences, the journeys you've had, and the sharings that you gave this morning. I'd like to ask you lang to please give your final word for everyone, like a line or two that you wish to share before I wrap things up.
Yes,
Brother,
yes, Father. Indeed, it was a pleasure for me to be able to share with you our attempts. These are only our attempts to the experience that we had been working for the poor. So thank you for this opportunity to share with you. Hopefully that this will also be multiplied in other parts of the country.
thank you, Sister.
It's a privilege.
Brother Kenneth.
I echo the same privilege. Thank you, Iking, for keeping me in mind and my humble gestures to help the poor. Again, I always say it's the transformation of everyone. I think day-to-day interaction with those who are displaced, I think this is the natural way in which God has invited us.
Yes.
It's really to keep our hearts and minds open. And this is where the transformation happens. The pandemic has brought all of us in some form of way into some form of poverty. And this is what we want to do, is to be in solidarity with everyone who has been affected by the pandemic. Lastly, from Mother Teresa, it is not how much you do, but how much love you put into what you do that counts. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Amen. Thank you very much, Sister Carmeli, once more, and Brother Kenneth. On behalf of CEAP, I really would like to thank both of you for sharing your time, your expertise, your spirituality, your vision as leaders. I hope that we have inspired our CEAP member schools this morning by your sharing by this session. Now, thank you very much. May I remind everyone again about the certificate of attendance. This will be given only upon completion of the evaluation form. The link is already posted in the comment section of this page and on our Facebook page. The link can be accessed only from 11:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. today. We encourage you to answer the evaluation form for us to know aspects of CEAP webinars that we can improve and areas that we can strengthen. Your certificate will be emailed to you in the next 3 to 5 days. Please note also that the PowerPoint slides of all webinars, including the ones of Sister Carmeli, will be made available at the CEAP website, www.ceap.org.ph, ready for downloading. So the materials of the past webinars are all there, and the ones used today shall be uploaded in the same site. Brother Kenneth, Sister Carmeli, from Father Jobert again, regards now.
Thank you.
Um, Finally, now I'd like to just make a synthesis and a closing statement. Now, Pope Francis, in his third encyclical Fratelli Tutti, acknowledges in chapter 1, Dark Clouds Over a Closed World, how the world has even galvanized single pursuits that seek only one thing: enriching self, enriching one or few nations, while leaving the rest of the world in hunger and poverty. Chapter 2 of the same encyclical is about a stranger on the road. It recalls the parable of the Good Samaritan. Using the parable as model and guide, the Holy Father reminds us how we are called to be neighbors to others, overcoming prejudices, personal interests, historic and cultural barriers. And he invites us to be co-responsible in creating a society that is able to include, integrate, and lift up those who have fallen or are suffering. Because to him, love builds bridges. In chapter 3, Envisaging and Engendering an Open World, he invites us to move beyond ourselves. The fundamental call is to seek better for the life of the other. The right to live with dignity belongs to everyone. Fellow educators in CEAP, here lies our mission: the transformation of communities, of institutions, of individuals, regardless of where you are. It doesn't matter whether you are in a rural area, in an urban area, or in a rurban area. It doesn't matter. What matters is that we embrace our mission of transforming communities, institutions, and individuals and lives. This is where our call is rooted. Let us be Christians for others. Let us be Catholics for everyone. Ayokong sabihin yung man for others, magre-react si Dr. When we pursue this, let us be urged only by the charity of Christ. Let the love of Christ urge us to do good for God's glory and for the liberation of humanity. Have a blessed week ahead. Before we end, I would like to thank our partners PEAC, the Private Education Assistance Committee, and Raxo City, our web host, for being wonderful and supportive. Join us again tomorrow at 9 a.m. for our online recollection, brought to you by the media champions of our JEEPGY program. On behalf of our President, Sister Marisa Viri, RVM, and the CEAP Board of Trustees, the Programs Committee, and the JEEPGY champions, Mr. Jose Alan I. Arellano, CEAP Executive Director, and the National Secretariat, I would like to thank all of you for taking part in the morning's session on poverty reduction, the Negros Island Journey. Once again, I am Father Iking, coming all the way from Dumaguete. Keep safe, everyone. God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Dahil sa ikaw at ako,
Tuto sa prinsipyong
yung at serbisyong totoo,
Mahalin tulad ni Kristo,
sa puwarang Katoliko. Pagkakaisa
sa tulong at gawa,
masasalamat
sa lahat ng alaala,
pagbabago,
ang misyon sa mundo,
magagawa sa biyaya ni Kristo.
ang kabataan
May hamon at alay,
sa ating bayan,
maging lingkod at
ng pagbabago,
sa misyon sa mundo. Birhen Maria ang gabay at ang modelo. Sa mundong may bagong anyo, isang bansang may bagong sigla. Dahil sa ikaw at ako, natuto sa prinsipyong komunyo at serbisyong totoo.